Hi, Matt. Hey, Bob.
There. Hello, all.
Hi there.
Hi,
Hey.
Matt. I don't think I've ever met you.
He's muted.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Bob.
How you
I've
doing?
heard your name for years and never had a chance to meet you. So,
Probably not a good thing.
always a good thing. Always a good thing. Rely on your information on the school so much.
I
So it's
try.
always good. Hi, Michael. Hi, Bob.
How you doing, Ellen?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Cannot complain.
No, nobody listens anyway.
That's probably true.
And Michael's there laughing at me for saying that. It's true, though, isn't it?
Absolutely true, right? Especially
Definitely.
these days.
Pardon?
Especially these days.
Yeah, I'm into that. Hi, Jackie. Yeah, it's also interesting just that it's so warm today, and then we're going to have snow tomorrow night. I mean, it's like, this is crazy.
That never happened before in March, did it?
I saw it happen in April. Matter of fact, I was
in
at
May, so
I've seen it in May. I was at a meeting in Lowell, the middle of May, and I looked out the window and it was snowing a blizzard.
May 26th, I think was.
Yeah, no, this was earlier than that. This
when I
would have been
remember
around
back
the-
in the
yeah.
back in the 70s, probably.
Oh, I remember
but,
that one too. I couldn't get home. I got, none of the roads were clear enough so I could make it up the hills.
Yeah, I was having final exams in engineering school of engineering and at UMass, and it was a long exam. And I got out of the exam. There was a foot of snow on the ground.
And it was like, what happened, right?
I
And of
almost
course,
died getting back to Southwest. It was amazing.
yeah. And you didn't have boots,
Yeah.
probably.
Just for like, I was a student on May 26th. What do you want?
Yeah, I know. That would have been a final back then.
Yeah.
Oh, awful. Crazy, crazy. Okay, I've got somebody, ESPAU. Could you identify yourself, please?
Sure, Dan Hayes. Can you see
Hi,
me?
Dan. I didn't recognize you.
Oh no.
Honey, age is catching up with both of us, I think.
No, you look the same. You look the
No,
same.
we don't. No, we don't. So how are the kids? Now they're all grown and gone now?
My youngest Aiden is at home, so
Uh,
that's nice. Yeah.
but the
my
girl,
oldest Elena is married, lives in Greenfield, works at UMass, and then my middle child, my daughter Anna, works in Lexington. So
oh, wonderful. Oh God, this doesn't seem possible.
mhm.
I remember when I taught you in swimming lessons.
Yes. Yes. I can
That
still
was-
swim.
Good for you. I'm glad you can still swim.
So
That's really bad when I can remember when you were a little kid.
mhm. Since I have the floor, I just want to say one thing, and this is in regards to the Shutesbury Elementary School. So both my daughters ended up going through the special education school or classes. My middle daughter, Anna, she had a hearing issue, so she started with Reach, went through the preschool program for 2 years, and then through the school. And now she does, she graduated from UNH in neuroscience and works for
Wow.
some lab in Lexington. So
Wonderful.
I think the only thing that I would say is I think every child is special needs.
Yeah.
Every child is special needs.
Good
every
point.
child learns differently. So
Yeah, they do learn differently.
Yep.
But they did very well. It sounds like that's wonderful.
They
That's
did
absolutely
phenomenal, and I
wonderful to
do
hear.
really owe a lot to the school. They did a
Yeah.
phenomenal job.
Well, that's why you've been on the school committee getting beaten up all these years. We
Trying to
understand.
give back.
Pardon?
Trying to give back.
Yeah. Hi, AJ.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. And Steve's walking around here,
Pacing?
but he's muted right now.
Yeah, I'm doing my potatoes. I've got my I have to wait now to eat it because I have meeting after meeting after.
You
Are
can eat in the
you,
meeting, Steve.
I wonder with a name like Sullivan, is he going to have corned beef and cabbage and all or not? Are you
Yes,
having?
it's sitting right beside you.
Oh, my husband doesn't like it, so I can't eat, I can't have it. I have to wait till I'm home alone to eat corned beef and cabbage, which is frustrating because I love it. But anyway. Okay, let's see. Do we have a quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4. Who are we missing? 1. Am I 1, 2? Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're all here.
You didn't count
And-
yourself.
Yeah, right. And it's now 6 o'clock. So I call this meeting to order. According to the agenda, we will be discussing the Shutesbury Elementary School heating system controls and having an update on the conference room and library large windows. And then we will review the minutes. Well, we might as well do this first, if it's okay with you all. Review the minutes of February 8th.
You should have all received them about 2 seconds ago.
Oh, okay. So I'll give everybody a chance to go out and get them if you'd like. I won't ask you, Michael, to read them, heavens forbid. So has anybody had a chance to look at them?
I haven't seen them come in yet. What time did you send them, Michael?
Oh, as I said, maybe 5 minutes ago.
6 o'clock? God damn it. Oh,
You
it's-
know, a little before that, maybe.
oh, yeah, I see them. I got them. Thank you.
Okay. It was sent as a reply to the Jamrog.
Yeah, okay, that's what confused me.
Yeah, I was in a rush, so that was the fastest way to do it.
Okay, AJ, do you want to get off and go see if you can find them or?
I have them now. I just downloaded
Oh,
them.
I like you gentlemen. You're really good to work with because you could just swoop them out down. Okay, and Steve, do you have them? No, not yet, I guess.
If you guys want to fire me as secretary, go right ahead.
No. We
Wait,
can't
don't
get
wait.
secretaries. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I can't pull them up.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Since we have 2 people that have them, do we have a motion
I make
pertaining
a
to the
motion, we
minutes?
approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and second, motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of February 8th as written. Is there any discussion?
I think it's a very concise job and I like it's got high style. I like it very much.
Okay, hearing no discussion to the contrary. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted and would you please send a copy to the
I will
town
do
clerk?
that, yes.
As I always say
Yes, well, no,
Every meeting.
no, don't hesitate to remind me.
well, it isn't for you, it's for everybody, including me, to remember. Okay, so now, an issue has come up with the Shutesbury Elementary School heating systems control. And I've got several people I notice here from the elementary school. Would somebody, and I'm gonna throw it open to whoever, whether it would be Dan or Jackie or Matthew, somebody tell us what's going on, please.
All right, I can start, and then of course Jackie and Matt could certainly chime in. You know, I think that we know that we definitely have a problem with the heating system at the elementary school. There have been a lot of patches and fixes and repairs, and you know, I feel like we are spending a lot of money just to keep it sort of operational, but it's not efficient and it's not reliable. So I think we are at a point where we definitely need to look at the system and determine what needs to be done, and then to determine what is the most cost-effective way to fix this reliably and for a long period of time. So I feel a little unprepared because I think we have 2 quotes before you.
I think we
But,
do.
right, but those quotes are very different. And I don't think that the quotes, I think they're not really comparing apples to apples. I do feel like we need a little bit more guidance. And I think this is where we need to really think about process. what is the best process to figure out how to fix a problem, especially when it comes to a capital item, whether it be the windows, doors, the flooring, or the heating system. I think we have a system sort of in place. I think this is where the buildings committee needs to make sure that they are involved in the process, where they can look at what needs to be done by working with different vendors. If we need to get a second opinion, they may have better access to a separate or different vendor. And then once we know what a problem is, be able to create a spec sheet so that that spec sheet really informs people who are determining what the cost of the repair will actually be, so that we can then compare and contrast. I think we need to also really hone in on this process as to who makes the decision as to which vendor we may end up choosing. I think that the school committee and the school, meaning the administration, need to be a part of that process, so that we can also make sure that we feel confident in the decision that's making. So it's really working as a team, working to build consensus, and all of us being informed.
Thank you, Dan. Matt, I see. Okay, yeah, Becky, go ahead.
Just to go back to process, I just want to point out that the way procurement law works in Massachusetts is, on smaller repairs or repairs that are just replacement that don't have to go through town meeting, those choices can be made. But if you go out to bid, which is the most, especially as costs go over $10,000, and clearly from those two bids, they're both over $100,000. That you really, what we do typically, the process is we talk to some vendors, get a ballpark like we've done here, and then we go to annual town meeting. If it's approved, then the process would be, typically you go through the procurement officially after you receive funding of the money by town meeting. So after we receive a go ahead, then we would put together the specifications and put it in the full bid package, and that goes out, and then we get the bids back, review the bids, and then you need to follow procurement law and take your lowest competent bid, lowest and responsible bid. So you don't have the choice of vendors typically, and the specifications are really critical, so that you do get what you want without being able to just select brand names, which we typically do. So it's a little different. There's more to the process, Dan.
I know, I've gone to training on it many years ago, and it's a nightmare to do anything really, really big. And this is really, really big. I mean, because of the need to do, as Becky said, you spec it all out, and then you have to, get an idea, and then you have to come and get it funded, then you blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on. Now, Matt, since you are, go ahead.
Typically, the role of the building committee would be to identify an issue, have a sense of the inventory and the state of all your equipment in all your major buildings, so that they could be, typically you'd have an inventory of all those things, and you'd be checking on things as they age, so you don't get in a situation where things are breaking down on you randomly. The building committee would have a sense of that, and then alert the school that something major does need to get replaced, and then go through the procurement process in replacing it.
Okay, Matt, do you have anything you wish to add? You work day to day on the school, so please.
I can just give my 2 cents, which is, there's the whole bid process. So
Yeah.
I know from looking at both the quotes, they're not even close to offering the same thing. Nexus came in 3 days and basically went through the entire building. Jason and Jamrock have always been great, have always been very responsive when we need them. In my opinion, we're kind of under their thumb in a way because no one else has worked on the school system ever. And my only complaint about them from my end is they have much bigger fish to fry, we'll say, like South Hadley or Frontier. So what happens a lot, and this is no dig at Jason, they'll come and throw a Band-Aid on something. I send them lists of things that need to be addressed. Like for instance, one of the new circulator pumps they put in, the seal failed.
Oh my gosh.
And there was water all over the boiler room. So he came and replaced the seal. And I went, well, you have to put more antifreeze in the system. It's not going to be up to pressure. Yeah, left. The next day there was no heat. So I had to call again. So that's my only complaint with them from that point of view is it's a constant. The attention to detail isn't there, in my opinion, since the Peter left, since the dad is gone. And they're incredibly busy. When they are there, he's incredibly great. It's not my decision. Nexus was incredible. Like I've never seen anyone, they went through the ceiling, they went through every piece of equipment.
Wow.
And you saw that quote is bullet pointed out to exactly what they're going to replace, which is everything except for the boilers. But all the computer system, I mean, I think the computer system we have still runs DOS. That's how old it is. And the last time Johnson Controls was there, they said, we can't back this up anymore. It's too old. But it's little things. I'm not trying to complain. Bob knows this. There's the compressor. The compressor has 2 motors on it that pushes air into the thermostats to adjust the thermostats. One of them has been broken for 6 months. And I've asked, and I've asked, and I've asked. And now the one that works isn't working.
Yeah. Okay, Matt, I was more interested in what has been, like you just told us, one of the things that's wrong. What else is wrong there? I mean, why is this coming before us now, essentially?
But I mean, we just got the new water boiler, which is great. The funny coincidence today, the insurance inspector was here to look at the boilers and stuff. And we went through them. I think most of it is from 1994, which I think was the last renovation of the school. So a lot of it's just very old, and there's a lot of components. Like, you know, we had the burners replaced, which is great.
Yeah, I remember.
But like one of the boilers itself is leaking. So, you know, I don't know a lot about it. Bob would, I think, know more, but you know, it's a lot of pieces of metal pushed together with gaskets in between. It's leaking. So the entire boiler is going to have to be dismantled to replace the gasket. But that's obviously not until after the heating season's over. But it's cumulative. So some parts of the school are hotter than others. I know a bunch of the thermostats don't work anymore. We just replaced 3 thermostats, the 3 in the office. Some of the what are they called? Some of the valves up in the ceiling towards 5th and 6th grade aren't working correctly. So the heat's either on full blast or it's not on. So it's a lot of just components. Like, you know, there's a lot of components that run the system.
They're not running it too well.
So yeah, it's just very, you know, I mean, it's been okay. I mean, we've had a lot of problems this year, but we've gotten by. You know, we've used more oil because we've had to increase the air intake in the school because of COVID. So we're mixing in more fresh air, which has to be heated, obviously, to go through the building. But yeah, I mean, like Bob knows, I think it's just the whole system is old. I mean, like, so it's like, oh, I was going to say that today, I don't even know what this part is, but I go in the morning and check on it, make sure it's working. And then I left, did my stuff, and I come back and there's a huge puddle on the floor again. And there's another part that's leaking water.
Oh, boy.
And I noticed it right before the insurance inspector came. And she was just like, she goes, "You're gonna pass." She goes, "I'll just note it, we note it on the thing, blah, 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 you have heat." But there's just many different components to it. Like, we've had problems in the past with the pump that like stages the oil in the boiler room. So there's a big block or a big box that's where the oil comes in. That's been a problem. Jason's had to work on that a few times. I think we got a quote for that alone with like $6,000. There's a problem still with there's a manhole cover that goes down into the surround of the oil tank, and that fills with water. And if it gets too high, it floods the pump, and then it kills the pump. So there is technically an alarm for it, but now the alarm doesn't work. So I go out there every week or two and pop the cover to make sure that there's not too much water in the manhole. So it's just a lot of little stuff, but it all adds up, I mean, but there's just so many components to it.
Just a minute, Bob. Matt, I thank you very much for giving us your perspective. And I can't imagine what a nuisance it must be to have to keep chasing after this thing, making sure the whole pieces are running, going into the manhole and everything else. It's like, ugh.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
challenging,
thank goodness you're responsible enough to do it.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like, I've come in when there's no heat.
Yeah. Oh, I've lived through it at the town hall, so I remember it.
Yeah.
How well.
But I think, like I said, I think Bob can back me up. Like, it's a somewhat complicated system. To me, it is anyway.
Sure.
So I don't know a ton about it. Like I said, all I can say is, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it's an enormous amount of money.
No, but you know what's wrong and approximately what is causing it. And that's important. That's very important.
Well, I can just say it's like whack-a-mole. Like, this broke, fix that. Now this broke, fix that.
Yeah.
It's like that. And I know I've been with the school 12 years, I think now. And I think Dan or Jackie would know more, but we've spent an ungodly amount of money maintaining that system.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Now, Bob's hand was up first, then AJ, and then Becky.
Bring the conversation back to process that was originally what Dan had mentioned, and I think that's an important thing. Matt, I do feel your pain there. You're operating this Tin Lizzie, but I think for the town's interest and from my point of view, it's best that we not just follow the procurement laws. Excuse that. Sorry about that telephone. Just ignore it, please. But also have an evaluative process so we can decide or sort of the shape and the extent of a problem by meeting with Matt and Jackie and others that are right there on the ground, and then bringing people in to look at it and to investigate, and then to assay what the scope and the extent of the problem is, and then to take some measure of that before we go out to bid, before we ask for money. We have to know, is it going to be $10,000, $20,000, whatever is going to be appropriate for the problem, but you have to measure it first. And then sometimes you'll have a puddle of water on the floor, and it means you have a cracked in a boiler, which means you have to replace it. Other times, as you said, it might be a simple seal that's easy to replace. So that's part of the evaluative process, is to establish what parts need replacement. If there's as Matt said, it's a component system. There's a heating system, which is comprised of the boilers and the burners. Then there's controls that are on them. There's a distribution system. And in this case, it's a fairly complex one because they have a couple of systems. One is a hybrid system that includes air and so forth. So yeah, it's a complicated thing. It's not rocket science, but it's not
pretty close.
Not something that's easy to understand, right away.
Right.
So that requires you bring in professionals. Professionals will usually do some kind of evaluations for little or no cost, just to assay the problem. You discuss it with the professionals. You compare notes. That's what the building committee, I believe, should do, to help the town here. I think we have some people in town, like Jim Hemingway was down there with me when we had the issue with the boilers in the first place. He's got extensive experience in this industry. He worked for a company that installed boilers for many years. So that's a great asset to the town. He can come in and volunteer to help establish what the problems are.
Bob,
So-
we've gotten the point. Thank you. May I ask, I would like to get
okay,
everybody to,
All right, I just think
speak,
that the building
please.
committee should have a role in this. And,
well, okay, I appreciate your comments. AJ, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question. Actually, this is for Matt, and I'm not sure that's even if you'd be able to answer this, but could you sort of quantify the amount of time that you personally spend during heating season in a typical day or week? It's when you were kind of going through all of these different sort of checks, and it sounded like to me that a considerable portion of your time is spent like having to sort of check on all of these features of the system that have caused problems. And I was wondering if you had to sort of roughly quantify the amount of time you spend on this. Is that possible for you to produce an answer?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a huge amount of time. Like, I mean, it's part of my everyday, neuroses. I walk around, make sure everything works before the kids come in.
Yeah.
The manhole cover, that is kind of a nightmare. Like I said, when it's winter and I'm out there trying to pump water out.
It's
a few hours a week.
It's the follow-up that he has to do.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
he has to oh, did they actually come back? Yes or no? Okay, now I have to do this. Because he also, I'm going to speak for you, Matt. I have
That's
daily-
fine.
Thank you, Jackie.
I have a wife.
I have daily conversations with him. He feels a great responsibility
Of course.
to the town and the building and the people in it to not let things go or to miss something that is then going to result in a bigger issue. He feels a lot of responsibility for that. So he does take it seriously. He checks up on things. He has to almost like babysit. Did people come? Did they come and do this? Did they do that? Or is everything all set? So I just want to say it might not be like 5 hours a day, but it's
Right.
a constant thing that he is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you probably guess why I'm asking the question, but I mean, it seems like to me there may be an important justification for dealing with this in a comprehensive way, as opposed to the kind of Band-Aid approach it sounds like we've pursued over many years now. And part of that justification, may be that, the staff at the school are just like consuming a lot of time addressing these kind of outdated features of this system, and that there are better uses of people's time, and that it seems to me that should calculate in this
It's
kind of
definitely more challenging now to try to meet CDC's cleaning guidelines and then try to do a lot of this other stuff. I mean, it's part of it, it's whatever, but it's hard. Like just my 2 cents, I get it. Like, the town's not made of money, and it's like the roof, the parking lot, the heating system, like they're all huge dollar amounts. So I'm not opposed. I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's not my decision. It's an ongoing thing. I don't know what the answer is. Like I said, I know what Bob was talking about. Like, we had that company Nexus. Yes, they gave us a price. They came in and went through that entire school. I had all the blueprints of that school out for them. I think at least their evaluation of that system is pretty thorough, of everything that they're talking about upgrading. But like I said, Bob and some of his friends, I think, would know better than I would. I'm not an engineer. Like, I don't know exactly. Like, I learn every year more about the heating system. Like, oh, I didn't know that. Whatever.
Probably more than you want to know.
No, I mean, like Bob said, there's a lot of components.
Yeah.
It's actually simpler than you think it is, but there's a lot of components that make it run. So,
Yeah.
you know, just the computer system alone, like I said, Johnson Controls was there, who was the company that does all the controls, and they're
Yeah.
like, we can't even back this up anymore.
That's scary.
You know, once this software
wait a minute.
goes, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome.
And thank you, as I said, for keeping on top of things. Because to me, that's worth all the money in the world, to make sure that we have heat when we're supposed to have heat, and cool when we're supposed to have cool, and the proper air combination for the kids now under CDC guidelines. I mean, it's so important. And thank you for your work in doing it. Now, Becky, I want to turn to you for a minute. Did you call in Jamrod and this other company, or how did this whole thing start? I just know that all of a sudden I heard that she came in and said, we have to have another capital planning meeting. I said, oh, why? And so will you speak on it, please?
Sure. So originally, well, this has been going on for the whole time I've been town administrator. The Johnson Controls issue, I think we probably we spent about $12,000, $15,000 to replace some units about 8 or 9 years ago. But at that point, we were talking about maybe that was one section out of, I think, about 5 units. And that to replace all of them was going to be a huge amount of money. So we replaced the ones that were the worst off at that point in time. Again, the Band-Aid approach. And then I had been hearing feedback through Jamrog and through Matt that replacement parts were not available anymore for in the valves and you know, the controls. The computer part is already totally outdated, but now that they can't even replace the valves with the kind, they don't make them anymore. So that's a huge deal. And then the comment that Jason made was, that system goes down before winter's over, we're not gonna be able to get it back up. And that was the point where I had already spoken with Jackie. She had requested a Jamrog quote a year ago. We tried to find that quote from a year ago, couldn't find it. I asked Nicole that works at Jamrog, she does the quotes, for a new quote, and that took quite a while to update that quote. And talking with Jackie and with Matt and Steve about this issue, I said, you know, capital planning's, you know, just about wrapping up, but this is huge and we can't risk losing that building. And maybe that's overreacting on his part, but when you can't replace parts,
Yeah.
it's hard to patch things together. So we didn't want just one quote. Bruce Turner turned to this company Nexus, is that the right name? Because they were doing work, they had won a bid at the New Salem Wendell Swift River School. And so he reached out to them and they came in, they did one quick look, then came back and did a much more thorough review. So we have these 2 very different quotes. I can't tell you exactly how they vary, but one's for about $106,000. The other's over $170,000. The Nexus quote. So I think that's where we are today. I didn't want annual town meeting to go by without having a plan for how to tackle this before we go to winter again. And I think as far as expert opinions, it might be a good idea to really get an engineer in there to quote out what is needed, or just to give us the specs so that we can really compare what we've been given to what a third party would say we need. And I know that that could cost some money, but there's still a little bit of money for engineering available from the building committee line, if that was the direction to go in. Or this, you know, we can figure that out if it's determined that that's the best route to go. And at this point, I'm thinking that that we want something that's as technical as the work that needs to get done to review for this project.
Yeah, Dan?
Yeah, so I too want to thank you, Matt, for all that you do. I think having a real sound foundation of the building itself, its operations, it is invaluable. So Ellen, thank you for bringing that, out in public. So we need to have this system fixed. And I think, Becky, that's a really good idea if we have some money to have an engineer come out there. I think, between Matt and the buildings committee, maybe they can come up with some sort of a list for the engineer to actually have some guidance as to what to focus on. And then we begin to move forward on however we pay for this. I don't know. I think it needs to be done. And Becky, of course, the process, so you would be involved in figuring out, how is the best way to do this. Obviously, it has to go out to bid and all of that. So I think I'm hoping that we're all in agreement that it needs to be fixed. I would just want to make sure that we have a really good process and a process moving forward that we can make sure that we're all communicating with each other. And we have a system in place where, as things come up, we can really address issues and concerns in just a better way.
Dan, one of my comments, so you commented, and it almost sounded like we're only going to look at the things that are a problem. It sounds like we have to look at the whole system.
Right, and I think
Really?
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think an engineer hopefully will look through all of that. But I think between Matt and the buildings committee, if they can give some guidance as to what the issues are, because an engineer may only be looking at one thing. They may not think that they have to go out to the manhole cover to look underneath. But if they're given a list of things, perhaps that would be beneficial. And making sure that we keep moving forward in a direction and a process that, if you have a good process, you have a good outcome. So I want to make sure that we have a good process moving forward.
It sounds to me like that other company that I don't even remember its name, came in and, it sounds like they did a real thorough look at. Yeah, I mean, amazingly thorough. And that you've got to appreciate that. And AJ, do you have your hand up? Or you
Yeah,
just...
I do. I guess my thought was that, and it's actually related to what you just said, is that it sounds like we have a really good bid here. It not from a perspective of price necessarily, but in terms of really outlining a set of steps that need to be taken and actions that need to be taken to to deal with this system in a comprehensive way. And I guess I'm wondering if some combination of the buildings committee and Matt and
Becky, who's been
Becky
involved in this.
and other,
She knows.
and I guess other knowledgeable folks could use that as kind of the beginning platform for a request for proposals that that could be that we could put out for bid. But it seems like one of the benefits of having, I mean, Matt, did you say they came out on 3 separate days to review the system?
They spent 3 full days in the school.
Wow.
I mean, to me, it's like I'm actually kind of wondering, knowing nothing about this kind of system at all, I'm wondering if sort of having an engineer's assessment is going to actually add a whole lot more value than what you've got laid out in this bid. And I'm not the person to answer that question. I think.
Well, and I'm
Okay.
probably the least knowledgeable about anything building wise here, but I will say that Swift River did use them for a heating controls. And that is who they ended up with, whatever their process was. And I know that they were pretty satified.
Yeah.
Just to let you,
Okay.
I don't know anything about them.
I wonder if anybody who came out was an engineer. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean,
there's 2 gentlemen that own the company.
Yeah.
Each one of them has at least 20 years in the heating industry. One guy worked for Johnson Controls for a decade.
That helps.
So he's very knowledgeable,
Yeah.
I think. But like I said, it's hard for me to quantify because, no, I'm just saying because, one company will come in and say, what'd they tell you?
Yeah,
and the other one
yeah,
will come in, so me not knowing, it's hard for me to, I would just say I was impressed with their thoroughness. They
yeah.
were in the ceilings, they were they were everywhere, moving furniture. So yeah, I was impressed anyway.
I can see why. And Jackie, thank you for putting up with all the problems that you've had.
Hey, luckily I have Matt and Andy, our other custodian. They're great, because this has
That's
been a
good.
crazy year. So I haven't been able to be much help in that department when I'm trying to figure out the school education part.
Well, thank you for everything you do too, though. That's important. So now where do we go from here, my committee? Our
Looks
committee.
like Steve's raising his hand.
Oh, Steve. Hi, Steve. How's supper going?
I just whipped the potatoes so that we're good there. So I just want to say that, with Jamrog, Jason has been working on that system. When I started in the after school program in 2008, he was coming in after school to pick up his daughter and was doing stuff at the end of the day. And so he does know the system, but he's also at a disadvantage because we've asked him, so that's 13 years now, to baby this thing along and fix little pieces at a time. We've never asked him to go in there and tell us what we would need to do to replace that sucker. So I think that's why Jason's bid is a little bit different, because he's been asked for 13 years now to help that thing limp along and not just come in and replace it.
Becky, what did the two companies get the exact same instructions?
I didn't speak to Nexus. Bruce spoke to them, so I
Okay.
don't know what they got.
You don't know. Incidentally, for my committee, Bruce Turner is the business manager of the school union.
And
So because my gentleman may not know that, who Bruce
And
is.
he's sick today, so that's why he's not here. I'm sorry. I
Oh.
didn't talk to him today.
Yeah, well, because I'd asked Becky if he was going to be here,
Yeah,
because I thought, I'm not knowing that he had anything to do with it, except he's a business manager. So I thought he would probably have some knowledge on buildings.
Yeah, we scheduled the meeting around his schedule.
Yeah. Yes, Bob.
He's out sick today.
Yes, I just want to suggest that the building committee meet down at the school, or some members of it that are willing to do this, just to do an evaluation that's might be useful for the town, to have another set of eyeballs directed on this problem, and to evaluate what we see, because I think that's useful. I'm in the trades. I'm a contractor. So is Michael. You know that you bring in contractors to do a job, specified different ideas.
That.
So you have to evaluate that. I think that'd be useful. I would be willing to do that. Steve would probably be willing, and the building committee would be willing to do that as part of the evaluation that would lead up to getting the scope of this problem.
So I just have one thing, and I don't, again, know the process. So that I might not be speaking, appropriately, but I do feel a sense of urgency a bit, because I don't want to miss out on the town meeting end, if that is something that we need to be able to procure the money, so that next winter, we're not going to be in the same boat. And this is not me being fresh, but we've been talking about the roof now for 7 years, because that's how long I've been here, and we're still talking. So what I don't want to happen is, I agree with all of these things people are saying. It's so important. Of course, you want a person who knows what they're talking about to examine things and be very clear and consistent. But I also don't want it to take 3 years and then we're continuing to be in this spot. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents there, because the system is going to be working overtime. It is now trying to make our air cleaner, and that's not going to be going away next year. So it's still going to be double timing the air flow and everything else going on. people have windows open because of COVID, you know, like there's a lot of things happening. It is working harder, which is probably why we're seeing more issues, I would assume.
Yeah.
But I just want to put it out there. Like, I don't want to miss the opportunity of town meeting now to be able to get it fixed.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. Yeah, Becky.
I think we can, at least as far as annual town meeting goes, we can do a warrant article that sets a not to exceed amount. Possibly that could be the high amount from Nexus, depending what we learn in the next month or so. But I think we can dig in and do more research about the project to be prepared to explain and zero in on the best solution by town meeting. But, you know, we can get that on the warrant, Jackie, so that you have some assurance that this has to be fixed. We can't risk that building next winter.
Yeah. I think that's a logical way of doing it, actually. So, and the not to exceed doesn't present a problem. If it comes in less, fine. If it comes in then we have to borrow the full amount, that's fine too. But at least we have a ballpark number, because you can't have an exact number because you still have to go out to bid. And, you know, after the fact, after we get town meeting approval. So the best bet is to do just that. So the question is, and all we're going to say, I believe, in our capacity is, yes, we have a problem. Yes, we have to fix it now. And that town meeting should adopt some kind of not to exceed limit for said work. And that's about all we can do, because that's all our purview is. And then it's a building committee and Becky and an engineer or whoever else to come in and do all the rest. And then we start after town meeting, you can start with the formal bid process and building process. And hopefully this summer, some work can be done and get things ready for you. So you have a good year next year. And poor Matt isn't running around taking care of water on the floor and everything else, because that scares me, that it could get in the boiler and you could have a big mess. Yes, Bob.
Yeah, I just want to say the town meeting is scheduled, I believe, for June 12th. Becky, is that correct?
Yes.
So that leaves us some extra time this year to evaluate this. So whatever we did, if we started to vote on it tonight, it wouldn't speed up the process, because money still has to be allocated to town meeting.
Yeah.
It's long after heating season. Hopefully heating season is over.
We hope.
So I'm thinking that we should just do a little research, a little homework before we vote on the amount to evaluate the extent of the problem. And I don't think that's something I'm certainly willing to do. Building committee would be willing to do. I think I could speak for them. I don't know. Steve's over here. I don't know what he has to say. But that just to get a grip or a handle on the problem, report back to all the various interested parties, including the capital planning committee, school committee, school administration, so forth.
Okay, AJ, and then Steve.
I guess the only thing I would want to add to that, Bob, I think that everything you said there sounds appropriate and reasonable, is that I think there is a distinction that I think this time we want to, it sounds like there's some consensus that we should deal with this in kind of a comprehensive, holistic way, rather than the approach we've taken in the past of, identifying kind of a small component of the problem and addressing just that one component. Is that fair to say? It seems like there's some consensus that the time is right to take a kind of a bigger picture look at the system and address it in that fashion.
I think you're,
because I haven't seen the thing yet. I haven't seen the problem yet.
Right.
Bob,
Okay.
please.
But I formed that impression.
To AJ, yeah, I think you're right. We have to do things now rather than this piecemeal thing that doesn't work. Yes, Steve, you were waving.
So that is the question, and the issue is we just need to decide, are we going to just keep piecemealing this thing,
No.
or are we just going to bite the bullet and fix the stinking thing once and for all? I mean, that's the only question the buildings committee has to answer is, do we piecemeal it or do we rebuild it?
And it's also the question that this committee has to answer. not only building, but us. Michael, you have been very quiet today.
Well, I have had about what I'm looking at the clock here, about an hour to study this problem since I've learned about it. And you know, it seems like from what's been said here, but yeah, I don't have enough information to make a reasonable judgment on any of this stuff.
So you're not comfortable with the idea that the whole thing should be replaced.
Well, it certainly sounds like it, but I don't have, you know, all I have
Okay.
is I've seen the 2 quotes, which I scanned quickly because I got them brief, you know, just before this
Mhm.
meeting. And
I haven't even seen
I
them.
hadn't even heard that there was a problem before that. So I just don't have enough information
Okay.
to make
Okay.
an informed judgment.
Okay. So I'm sitting here thinking, where do we go from here?
It
Well,
sounds
we
like
have
back-
another meeting.
have
Go ahead.
the building committee look at it, and if they can do that this week, then we're going to have another meeting at
Oh,
some
yeah.
point to study it.
Definitely.
That's,
Even if we don't deal with money, then we deal with, yes, we'll go with the whole replacement, or no, we don't. And Becky, you were raising your hand.
I missed part of what Bob said before Steve spoke. Bob, you said you have not seen the problem yet. What was your,
I'd
what
like
what
to-
were you suggesting needed to happen? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Building committee, or some members of the building committee that want to participate, go down and try to do an evaluation, start an evaluation of what we see. And just add that evaluation to what we know so far. And as Michael said, I just got these bids, you know, minutes before this meeting. I haven't even evaluated the quotes. Or what and I don't even know what they mean or what they're suggesting. I'll just say this, that from my experience in the building trades, you have to look into these things a little bit and get an idea of what you're dealing with before you say, oh yeah, we have to replace the whole system, or we can fix this part, or whatever we conclude after doing due diligence on the problem, you know? So that's what we have to do. That I'd be willing to do if the town wants us to. As volunteers, we're willing to participate and try to make the process useful for and generate a good outcome. So as I said, the timing of the thing is not really that urgent, since town meeting is June 12th. Gives us some time to do this, report back to the various committees and principals, and proceed, go forward.
Okay, Becky, when is the town meeting warrant put to bed?
I think
It's
we
not-
have to the beginning of May, end of April,
Okay.
beginning of May.
So we basically have 5 weeks.
I mean, it could, yeah, at the worst, I mean, at the best, it might be this, probably around the 10th of May,
Okay.
about a month before town meeting.
Okay, so that's almost about 7 weeks then, basically. And may I ask, is there anybody on the building committee that's dealt with large scale, not houses, but large scale buildings like this, commercial buildings?
Well, there's nobody on the building committee that's a heating contractor or.
Well, no, but you keep talking about them. Well, they're going to know what's wrong. Well, I want to know, because I imagine a commercial building is very different from a house. I mean, I don't know enough about it to be able to say that. Yes, Steve, you're waving your hand.
That's my question too. I mean, I'm happy to go look at it with Bob, but I'm going to be staring at the boilers that I've seen. You know, I've seen them since 2008. I've mopped up puddles from them, but I'm going to look at it, and I'm not an engineer. I'm not a heating guy. I'm going to, if you ask me, I'm going to say, yeah, they're super old. Let's stupid things. Let's pull them out and get new ones.
Well, you know, I think that we can get a little more precise about our evaluation than that. And I would probably going to ask Jim Hemingway, who has installed hydronic systems in various capacities and sizes, and has quite a bit of knowledge about that. And then I would invite maybe somebody like Whittier Plumbing and Heating or someone else, just to get more eyes on the problem and to evaluate it. Look, we may end up going with Jamrock or with the other bidder, but it'd just be good to evaluate it for ourselves independently of those two bids.
Yeah, okay, I can appreciate your concern. I would also like to see a real engineer get in there. I
Well,
really would. A
committee will figure it out.
HVAC engineer. Because, you know, this is a system that's 25 years old or more actually. And that's what scares me. It's old, old, old. And we need somebody who really understands how the whole system works and what a new system would do. Yeah, AJ, and then
Just,
Steve.
I just had one last thing to say, is I just would really like us to make use of that Nexus bid. Just in the sense that I think there's actually been, like, those 3 days that they spent assessing the system represents, you know, sort of free work that's been done to evaluate and assess the system, and in a, you know, in a serious way. And, you know, if you think about it, from their perspective, I mean, they're like highly incentivized to, you know, to put a bid that's, to give us a bid that is you know, likely to be approved, and not to just provide like the most inflated bid that they could. They're trying to start a relationship with the town and with the school, because, you know, in the same way Matt described our sort of long history with Jamrog, I mean, this is a piece of work now, but it's obviously something that they view as potentially a long-term relationship that will bring them work in the future. So whether we end up using, I mean, actually hiring them or not, it seems like there's a lot of valuable information in the bid itself that I think the building committee could make use of, and could help prepare a scope of work. So that's the last thing.
Thank you. Somebody else. Steve, did you have your hand up?
I did. I agree with Bob that we accept that Whittier retired 5 months ago, and it's now called PVE. But I agree that, you know, they would be somebody local that would be good to call in and check whatever we ask them to check.
Well, just, yeah, they'll come over and evaluate it, and it won't cost us a penny. So how can that hurt?
Jackie?
Well, but I also do think, I hear what Steve said about Jamrog, and I do think it's also appropriate to then ask them the same thing we've asked everybody, which is give us a quote on what you think needs to happen to make this system be successful in the long run. And I think Steve is right, because we have asked them for years to Band-Aid it, to get us through another winter, And I do think that it's only fair to ask them to do the same thing.
Becky, did you have your hand up?
Yeah,
Then Dan.
I was gonna ask Bob if, when the building committee does the evaluation, if you could put together notes that would help with the scope of work from your perspective. To have for the committees that you're gonna be reporting out to, that would be really helpful.
Sure.
Dan?
So I just want to thank everybody, because I really feel that this meeting was very productive in sort of building consensus in how to move forward with taking care of a problem that's been chronic. It sounds like the buildings committee, working along with either, I'll say, experts, whether it's an engineer or perhaps people coming in who have expertise in certain areas. I agree, AJ, looking at the nexus, there's lots of information in there that, again, the buildings committee having that can review it and, you know, compare and contrast. And we begin to move along this process. And however that happens, I think, Becky, you're going to be the expert in terms of process, making sure that, you know, we get what we need to get the heating system fixed in a comprehensive way that will be efficient and effective and reliable moving forward. And the process, as you mentioned earlier, will require, you know, I think a spec sheet where people will bid competitively. And then we see where the chips may fall, and all interested parties, including Jamrog, should have an opportunity to bid on that, and perhaps maybe evaluate what the system needs as well. And we can, again, if Jamrog, maybe having experience there, comes up with something different than the Nexus, maybe a piece of it, you know, we may want to say, well, let's look at that piece that Nexus missed, or vice versa. So we can utilize the expertise of people here in town on the buildings committee, working along with Matt if he has specific concerns, to give that to them. But I'm happy that I think we're moving forward on a path to fix this problem.
I just want to say one more thing. I'm not
Go ahead, Jackie.
a difficult person, but
No, we
Matt,
appreciate it.
Matt and I have, we've already talked about this too. I want Matt to feel like he certainly can be a part of it, but I don't want anyone else giving Matt direction that's not me or Bruce. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that became a little bit of an issue a little while ago. And so if I want him to be a part of it because he is knowledgeable, but I don't want, people giving Matt directives. They can be talking to me and then I can talk with Matt, but Matt and I have agreed on this. And this is something that I feel really strongly about. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
If I could just follow up
Yeah.
too,
Oh,
with you,
yeah, go ahead.
Jackie, I mean, I do agree with you that it's all about process. For example, I don't ask you to do anything, Jackie. I always ask Jennifer, who's the superintendent, because the superintendent works for the school committee, not you. And I think we all have to be cognizant of who works for who and how, and channels of communication. And again, I come back to that statement. If you have a good process, you have a good outcome. And hopefully this meeting really helped to clarify, and I think we're all here for the same reasons. We want to help the town, we want to help the school, and although we may approach it a little bit differently, I think we understand that we need to work together, build consensus, and fix the heating system, and keep the lines of communication open. So, Matt, be sure to speak up if you feel like, hey, you're getting overburdened with things. The buildings committee should make sure that Jackie is the person, contact person. I, as the chair of the school committee, will try not to interfere with anyone, but I want to keep my pulse on this. I want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, and I want to make sure that the heating system works well.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, is there any other discussion on this, or can we still got to have another thing on the agenda too, which deals with the school. So if you all want to stay, that's fine. Going to get an update on the conference room and library large windows. Becky, do we have an update?
Steve?
Okay, Steve, anybody have an update?
I was counting on Bruce Turner being here. I think
Yeah.
he's the one that submitted the last quote, and I'm sorry, I don't have it right next to me. Does anybody have the quote that Bruce last did?
I can search my email.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the one who's been on the windows, and
Okay.
Steve might know, and Matt
I
might.
heard him say a number, but I can't put my hand on an estimate where anything's broken down.
The
Alan?
last thing I heard was that he had gotten the quote for the aluminum
Yeah,
doors it was 16,000 for both. That was the product and the installation, but that was 16,000 each for the library and the conference room.
so
So
32,000.
32,000 total then, roughly.
Can I suggest that we
Bob?
handle this at the next meeting and get?
Yes, I was going to say, yes, we're going to have to, because we need more. It was on the agenda, so I was throwing it out. And I knew we were hung up waiting for Bruce, and now Bruce comes down sick and kind of,
All this
makes it
food
difficult.
preparation I see Steve making is making me really hungry. So.
oh, I'm starving. Okay. Yeah, Steve looks like a good guy to become
I'm
a
going to
house
Steve's
husband.
house right now.
Yeah, Becky.
Can we pick a next meeting date?
Yes, that was the next thing I was going to ask you to do. Okay, my committee. And Becky, what is good for a next meeting date? How much time? What kind of a time are we dealing with? I mean, how much time before anything else happens that we,
How about the middle of April, like 21st or something like that?
what I tell you what I cannot do. Oh,
That doesn't leave much time.
no, it doesn't. Doesn't leave enough time.
Well, we just did a BC meeting for 6 o'clock on the 14th. So that's
What day of the week is the 14th?
that's.
Wednesday.
I can't do it.
How about Thursday, the day after our tax day? Tax day must be a holiday for you.
No, I don't know. I'm actually going to have to go and get my phone in
That's a
order to
school
check
committee
out my
meeting.
dates.
That's a school
Because-
committee meeting, so it would be hard for school committee members, which would include Stephen, who's on the building.
Yeah, to be there. Okay, if you don't mind, I will go run downstairs and get my phone, so
Okay.
I can then help set a date. So I will be back.
I mean, we have till the beginning of May, but if you don't meet to the 21st, you're almost out of time. And we wanted, and the capital planning was supposed to report to the finance committee on the 23rd. So you'll report what you know. I'm 23rd. At 7, what about 6 o'clock on the 23rd? That's just a week.
Friday?
No, the next, it's a Tuesday, isn't it?
No,
You're
April
talking-
23rd is a Friday.
Let's just say
Oh, I'm
March. I
sorry,
think.
I meant March.
Oh, March 23rd.
Yeah.
We're gonna have information by then.
The 23rd? I mean, that's going to be hard to wrestle
Right, because
together.
you haven't, what, Bob, when do you think the building committee?
Well, I have to contact them and go down there, and then it's going to require some back and forth with contractors and do some research. So I can't. 23rd is less than a week away. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's a little
Yeah,
cramped for
no,
my-
I get it. But the main reason for the meeting was to talk about the sliders.
Well, the sliders is, well, you want to have 2 meetings then? Because it won't be ready to report on the heating system by the 23rd.
Right, but I think the sliders are the issue that we were postponing, aren't they?
But we're not going to get the sliders any sooner than the town meeting, so I don't see why it'd be any more urgent than anything
We
else.
need an amount to be able to recommend, a not greater than amount to recommend to town meeting,
Well, I would
or
like to
even
discuss-
to vote to do it. Okay, now what date were you looking at, please?
I threw out the 23rd for if it was sliders only, but Bob made the good point that his committee can't have any other
Mhm.
reports back on the heating
Okay, 23rd of
too soon. It's too,
March or April?
March.
March,
And
that's it.
on the sliders, Becky, I'd like to see the quote, and I'd review that as well before I'm prepared to discuss or vote on this committee.
I cannot be
Rest
there
of
on the
the commission
23rd.
Should get the quote, Michael and others, AJ and others should get the quote too, so they can examine it and review it before we vote on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I can't be there the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th.
how about around, I took my calendar down. Bob, when did you want to meet?
I thought that, giving us a few weeks, like, maybe the 14th of, well, Ellen said she can't do the 14th.
Wait a minute, let me check the dates. No, I cannot do a Wednesday, the 14th. I can do the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday, not the second or the fourth.
Third Wednesday would be okay for me, and I think
But
that,
but you were saying, Becky, that's awfully late. Oh, as a matter of fact, I can't do the 21st. Life is getting complicated again for me.
Monday, April 12th?
April.
that works for me.
That works for me. How about everyone else? Becky, do you have any
Mhm.
meetings on April 12th?
I think the select board special meeting about solar is going to be the 5th, not it was going to be the 5th or the 12th. So could we do it that so the 12th should be good. If
Okay,
the 12th ends up being the solar date, maybe would it be possible to switch to the 5th, or would you want to go the 19th?
wait a minute.
I just want to allow enough time for us to do it, but, if, let's just set that tentatively and see if we have to change it. How's it?
April 5th is fine for me also.
Okay. So we'll schedule the
What
12th.
time? 6?
6 is good for everybody?
Yeah, I could not do the 5th on this.
Okay,
I could do the 12th.
Great. So the 12th is looking good.
At
Yeah.
6 o'clock?
yeah,
Yeah,
6
is it-
o'clock is fine.
Bob, is it a problem that it's before your next building committee meeting?
That is a bit of a problem. Maybe I'll have to try to reschedule that because I think we should have a building committee meeting before this. So we
Yeah,
can
that would be
discuss it
great.
up with our whatever resolve we might have. That's my building committee meeting was scheduled for the 14th, which would make it practical from my point of view to do it on the 19th. But is that something that can be done? Is that an open date for people?
Wait a minute.
You know, that's not a great week for me.
That's vacation.
No, it's not a great week for me
It's-
either.
Yeah, it's
Okay, well, I'll try to
spring
I'll
vacation.
try to
Oh,
bend it.
right.
Bob, maybe they can meet on the 7th. Are you available on the 7th, or you're afraid not enough time?
I'm gonna try, but
How about on the 12th, and we can do what we did tonight? You could meet.
okay, I could double decker it, I guess, but I'll try that. I'll do it 5 o'clock on the 12th I'll try to get the BC to shift. I'll see what happens, okay?
You can eat pizza during the meeting, Bob.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that means you're either gonna have a real early supper or a real later supper.
Well, I want to see if the BC is available, so then I'll report back to everyone, okay?
Good, thank you. If we report back to Becky, and Becky and I can worry about
We'll say
scheduling.
tentatively that we're going to try to do the BC meeting prior to the capital planning.
Great,
On the 12th, Monday,
Wow.
the 12th, right? Okay.
yeah, good.
Okay,
Okay,
Right.
well,
Sounds good.
thank you all for coming.
Thank
Stay
you.
healthy, please,
thank you
and
very
stay
much.
safe. Drive carefully on Friday morning. And,
Bye.
and bye-bye,
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
bye-bye.
Good to see everyone.
Yeah, good to see
Good night,
everyone.
Becky.
Good night.
Yeah, good night.
I can't find
Good
the.
night, Ellen.
Yeah, bye-bye, Dan
Good night, Ellen.
and
Good night,
Steve.
And Steve.
Good
I'm
night,
gonna eat
Dan.
one of these days.
I'll even see you tomorrow.
Yeah.